Welcome back. This is the quote unquote last week that you'll see some live stories this week. The live stream will still be here next week. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show, so please stay tuned. This week, lots going on. Adam's third or fourth love in terms of gaming. Other side, their studio Lightbulb is releasing a new game called 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Also on Adam's side of the show, we're going to be talking about Shadow of the Road and Elden Ring Night Rain. On my side, we're talking about Consume Me, a game developed by a single lady out in New York. Rise of the Anti-Fan, which is something based on the Dragon Age Veilguard. One of the developers of the game came out and said this to PC Gamer about a few days ago. We're going to be talking about the little touches in gaming via Reddit question, and the last story we'll talk about is a newly released game combining Antoine's love of Against the Storm and my love of card games into As We Descend. And Adam, tell us about Lightbulb Studios and what they've teased today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So they this was a couple hours ago. Let's see, it is 9:15 a.m. right now. So they put this up at 11 p.m. last night. So how many hours ago is that? 10 hours ago. So yeah, this is still pretty fresh. We don't have any videos on it. If you go on Steam, you can see a couple of stills. But yeah, super excited. 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦𝙧𝙎, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing it right. I don't speak Latin. I apologize for that. But yeah, so basically this looks like it's going to be a lot like Other Side. They did have a closed beta a while back. I was invited in, but I didn't have time to actually participate, so I didn't get to play it. But I did see some other people post a few pictures of it, so this is actually the game they were talking about. But yeah, so it looks like... as I said, it looks like Other Side. It's got a lot of similarities. It's got this very similar color scheme, you know, the black and white and red. The black and white looks a little more sepia here, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. It's going to have the same kind of time mechanic where you have a timeline and your character is going to act based on that timeline. And you can push characters back on the timeline, or you can kind of pull them forward on the timeline to get their turns in. So for example, if you have a certain enemy and you can just have a bunch of guys around him and you can keep pushing his turns back and back and back so that he never has a chance to act. Enemies can do the same to you though. So that's very similar to Other Side. Super excited about that. I loved that system. I thought it was fantastic, and glad to see somebody else is doing it. Yeah, it also looks like there's going to be a more interactive environment this time. So there's going to be explosions, there's fire, there's line of sight. They had line of sight in Other Side, but you know, explosions that you can cause with the environment, or you know, setting the ground on fire, that sort of thing. That's a little bit new, so that's super exciting. Your positioning is going to matter. This is a tactical RPG. It is grid based, not hexagon based, but it is grid based. So if you're standing in front of somebody, or if you're standing behind them, or if you're standing on their flank, you're going to be doing different kinds of damage, or certain abilities might have advantages or disadvantages, which is great. You're going to have things like knockbacks as well. So if like somebody gets within your range and you can knock them back, so now they're no longer in your range, or you can knock them into the range of another character. So that's going to be really fun. That's the kind of thing they advertise. It's also going to be roguelike, similar to Other Side. So in Other Side, the way it worked was... you had a certain number of days, and at the end of those days, you would have to face off against a boss. So during those days, you can choose to do a mission, and your missions are going to basically mostly be there to get you experience. So you're going to be a little bit stronger over time. And then also because as you go through, then your daughters could unlock memories, and memories were basically like buffs that would make them stronger. So you didn't only have their abilities that they learned and unlocked, but also, you know, you could get these buffs if you did more fighting. So you're encouraged to do more, but if you wanted to, you could just go straight to the boss. And this is going to be very similar. They say there's going to be procedural levels. So every time you pick a mission, you're going to go into a level. It's going to be different. It's not going to be set maps every single time. And they are going to have random skill drops in those combats that can be combined with your unique loadouts. And you're going to be able to create different synergies with these. So, you know, like maybe if you have an attack that does if you have an attack that has a high chance of crit, and then you pick up one of these things that says like, okay, on crit X happens, you know, you're like, oh, okay, you know, I can build more for a crit kind of build because I'm going to get all these crit bonuses, or I could build more for something about like a defensive kind of build or something like that. So you are going to have unique loadouts for each of your characters. Your characters are called, this time they're called, what was the word? 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦, which is Latin for a drop, as in a drop of water or a drop of blood. And that's going to be part of your kind of goal, because it says the purpose of this game is, where does it say? It says the world is basically fallen apart, and you're going to restore the flow of life to the world. So you are basically a drop of life, and you're restoring it to this world. And I think blood's going to be a pretty big mechanic in this game, you know, maybe sacrificing life to get certain benefits or things like that. And other side, basically there was 0 healing. So, you know, slowly over time, your daughters, which were your characters that you were using, were whittled down, and eventually they would all die, and you would, you know, the game would be over, but then you would reset, but then you would be able to keep certain aspects. You could eventually you could resurrect some of your old daughters. So you could, if you had a daughter that was super powerful, you could resurrect her. You could sacrifice daughters to each other. So if you had 2, you could sacrifice one for another to heal the one, and she would inherit some of the aspects of the first one that was sacrificed and whatnot. Looks like they're going to be, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing exactly that, because it does say that if you fail, there will be some progress awarded. So I mean, that could be the same as other side, where it's like, okay, you know, you got stronger, you failed, you start over, but you're able to, you know, still be stronger, so you can push ahead forward. That could still be that case, or it could be that, you know, you fail, but you know, you still get a little bit of something and you're progressing. But yeah, so it says that there are going to be different kinds of missions. You're going to have high risk, high reward missions. You know, you're going to have your kind of easier missions that you can use to gather resources or whatever you need. Or if you wanted to, you don't even have to do the missions. You can just go straight to the boss. So again, very similar to other side. So it looks like this is definitely a spiritual successor. As of now, like I said, I didn't get to play the closed beta, so I can't say for sure. But I haven't seen too many differences other than outside of the interactive environment from the description. So I'm very curious to see what else is changing. You know, are they going to have that same format where you have a set number of days, or can you kind of go at your own pace? It does say they did say that you're going to be able to move at your own pace. So maybe it's not going to be resetting all the time. But yeah, super excited. So keep an eye out for this one. 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦 by Lightbulb Crew. You can go to Steam right now. It has a page and you can wishlist it. They say that they're going to have early access coming relatively soon, and then they say early access should last around 6 months, and then after that, the main game can go out. So, yeah, I'm a little bit torn. I don't know if I want to play this game in early access or if I want to wait for the full release. So, yeah, I'm still kind of debating myself.
I mean, it looks like I watched this a fair amount while you were playing it, or listened to you while you were talking about it. But I like the idea of, and again, with these sort of games, that I like the idea of getting stronger, right, if you fail. Because one of the things I've struggled with in terms of roguelikes is you play a game and you don't learn anything, or you just fail and you don't get stronger, right? And I struggled with the first Everspace game was like that, where yes, you die and you earn some money and you can use that money to buy upgrades, but it's like buy 2.5% extra damage on your guns. And then like, oh my god, 2.5%, yeah, that should make a difference. No, it didn't. So I think if they, for people like me, if they nail that sort of like, yes, die, fail, get a little bit stronger, but that a little bit of stronger feels impactful, I'll be totally down for this.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to do it. Another side, it was you would make a certain amount of progress and you could unlock certain things, like if you, I think for each boss you built, then you could resurrect a fallen daughter at the beginning of each cycle. They had other things where like you would gain I think experience faster. They had ones where you could get some bonus damage or things like that. So yeah, you did actually feel the first few cycles, it didn't feel like I was making a lot of progress, but after the first few cycles, it was like, okay, yeah, I can definitely feel I'm getting stronger. So yeah, Hades is the same way, right? Where you kind of gain more power and then you reset, but then you can kind of maintain a lot of that, right?
So I mean, Hades is there were like multiple layers of getting better where like as you play, um the difference is in the weapons, right? So like as you play, you unlock weapons, and the weapons themselves is like certain things work better towards your play style. Like me, I focused on ranged, and that's what really helped for me. But some people, you might have really good reflexes, so you can do the melee stuff. You go and hit, run away, dodge, or you can move around really fast. And then on top of that, you had different skills, and you had blessings from the gods as well. And a few games started to adapt to this, but yeah, like Hades was like a three-tier system where skills plus blessings plus weapon made the game really, really different. On each different playthrough, and sometimes you got some really, really good skills that can counteract you deciding to try this weapon out or that weapon out. So you always did get stronger, and sometimes on the runs you didn't get stronger. You're like, okay, I'm gonna try this weapon out. Maybe I've been using it incorrectly or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, the gameplay itself is very different because this is a strategy RPG, but that kind of loop is very similar.
Exactly, exactly. I'm still waiting for Hades 2 to get out of early access. I have yet, well, I shouldn't say I have yet. I'm still tempted by early access, but I'm still holding out just because. And I'll talk more about that at the end. I should have talked about that last week. You know, as we're focusing more on RPGs, I'm like, oh, there's so many good RPGs that I want to highlight and play now. Now it's just sort of like to dig into the backlog and figure out what works.
Yeah, for me, I'm just kind of like, because they say they're going to release some content, but obviously throughout early access, they're going to be changing it. So it's going to be kind of like with Baldur's Gate, you know, where they got up to a certain point and you couldn't progress past that point in early access. And yeah, so on the one hand, I'm like, I really want to play this. So I really want to jump in. But on the other hand, I'm like, oh, that's going to drive me nuts if I get to a certain point and they're like, okay, you're done. And I'm like, no, I need more. I need it right now. That's going to drive me nuts. So I don't know if it'd be better to wait for the final game. Although they did say, it does say on the Steam page that as content is added, they're going to be upping the price. So I guess it makes sense to buy it early and then just sit on it too. That's an option. But then I'm also torn because I'm like, yeah, you know, like, do I want to get the cheaper? Do I kind of want to pay full price for this. I love the other side. I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this one. I think they deserve my money. So I'm kind of like, maybe I should wait. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't think of it as buying it on sale, right? It's just like, hey, I believe in you early enough to give you money.
Yeah,
and
no, it gives them early funding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Developers say like, yes, this early access funding is critical, and early access success in terms of inflows of cash can dictate, and they can go out to their publisher. I guess their publisher is Focus Home Interactive, looking at the Steam page. I just saw that Focus Home was a publisher on some of their games. I'm like, yeah, hey, we earned, $50,000 already in early access funds. Like, this is a good sign. I think we're gonna sell X hundred thousands worth of copies. Would you be able to front us up some more money?
Good point. Maybe I will just go early access then.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've bought stuff on early access. I think quite a few things on early access, and I just won't play it anymore until it comes out. But it's still nice. And then again, I mean, from the content perspective, right? It is like if you buy a game and it becomes famous enough while it's in early access, you're like, hey, here's the game. Oh my God, they did a huge update. This is what changed. And some people do things like that, and that works out.
Good point.
All right. Today, my first story is a game called Consume Me. So have you ever wondered what it's like to gamify the emotional roller coaster of teenage life? And Consume Me does just that, turning the trials of adolescence into an interactive experience. Now, this added to the fact that this is based from an Asian woman's perspective, right? Because this lady is Chinese American, or not really Taiwanese, but she's Chinese American. So she grew up, and a lot of Asian girls or Asian people would sort of understand. And if you watch the trailer of the video, her mother, who comes in pops up sometimes, the things she says is very much like you'd see on Asian TV shows. about criticizing her. Oh my God, you're fat. You should be doing exercise. Blah 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 blah. Why haven't you done your homework yet? Blah 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 blah. Oh, if you don't do your homework, you're not going to get into a good school, and if you're not going to get into a good school, you're going to be a failure at life, and very much Dragon Mom or Tiger Mom. I forgot what that phrase was.
Tiger Mom.
Tiger Mom. Yeah, exactly. This lady is developed quite a few games, not super popular, but I thought this was like really unique. It was inspired by her own high school experiences with dieting and self-image, offering just a window into what her life was like as she was growing up. The game features unique mechanics like Tetris-style food puzzles to represent dieting challenges and mini games for daily activities, effectively conveying, oh, what was she going through during those times. The game has already won a few different awards, the Seamus McNally Grand Prize Nova Award, the Wings Award. Again, I don't know what any of these awards are, but again, winning some awards does sort of indicate, again, take that with a grain of salt, that yes, there's something here if you're looking for something very unique, very different. The game has a lot of bright colors. Adam and I were talking about this before the show, and so despite it being somewhat serious in terms of the topic, despite it being very serious in terms of the topic of self-image, dealing with parental influence as you're growing up, right? The colors sort of do contrast with that. Is like, yeah, despite it being serious, I think that sort of helps sometimes, that a game has these bright colors that sort of like, okay, yes, this is a serious thing, but be a little bit happy. It is a very thought-provoking game. The lady has a few different websites you can go through to find some information about it. A demo is currently available on Steam, so if you want to play the first chapter, and the bonus of that fact is, like, if you do download the demo and play it, right, and you buy the game, you can actually continue progress from the demo, which for somebody who doesn't have a lot of time like me, or other people who don't have a lot of time, yes, that's great. If you play a demo, like, yes, I love this thing, but I don't want to restart over 2 or 3 hours when I buy the game by itself. But yeah, this is another really, really cool game. And I think this goes into, we've talked about this on the show, and I believe this, that the future of gaming for older gamers is going to be indie games, or indie studios made by 1, 2, 3-person studios. I was listening to a podcast the other day. They talked about the game, the Blueprints, right? Made by a 3-person studio, which sold, I think, 3 million copies, something like that. I don't know, a huge number of copies. Stardew Valley, of course, 1 person. So yeah, if you're looking for something really cool, if you're looking to relive your experience as a young Asian person, doesn't have to be a girl, with I already forgot what Adam said, Tiger Mom, Dragon Mom, then this might be a game for you, or even just an Asian family household. Like, my mom was not that much in terms of dieting, but my mom was all about school and grades and stuff, and like, oh my God, you got an 85. Why did you get 100? That sort of comments growing up, as most kids growing up with Asian parents is sort of attest to in some ways. But Adam, were your parents like that, like when you were getting grades and stuff?
No, but if we not so much. There was a case. I mean, this is a kind of off topic, but there was a case when because my math was good but slow, and so when we were in elementary school, we had to take like a test to figure out where we should place in math in middle school, and I got placed into the lower math, not because my answers were wrong, but because I didn't finish the test. And my dad, being a mathematician, was like, this is unacceptable. My son is not bad at math. So he went to the school and he was like, okay, we want to let him have a retest. And then we went to like a doctor and stuff, and they were like, yeah, he has a processing, not issues, but like learning disabilities. And so they were like, yeah, so he should not be timed on the test. And so my dad was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. So it was too late for me to go into the higher math class. I had to go in the lower math class in middle school, but my dad went to the school and he's like, okay, let's make you a deal. I will tutor him over the course of this year. At the end of the year, you let him take the final for the higher math class. If he passes it, he gets to go to the higher math class. And they were like, sounds fair. I mean, if he can pass the final, that means he understands the math, right? So my dad basically spent the whole year tutoring me. And then I took the final at the end of the year. And then they were like, oh yeah, no, his math is fine. He should be in the higher math class. And then I went to the higher math class. So I mean, a little bit different. They're not so much pushing. They didn't so much push me as much as they worked with me.
What was it like having your dad tutor you at math?
It was fine. He just bought a bunch of like math books and he was like, okay, let's see what you can do and let's see what you can't. And if you can't, I'll explain it to you and then we'll see if you can do it. And if you still can't, I'll explain it again.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, that would have been like in your life, like maybe your not first impression, but your most resonant impression of it being what a teacher is like. Is your dad teaching you for that 1 year?
I mean, I got lucky. I had a lot of good teachers over the years.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, this is the closest teacher you had in your life.
I guess. I mean, it was only for like 1 year. Not even the whole year. It was just like the summer.
Just the summer, so it wasn't actually the whole year.
It was the whole year, but I mean, we really didn't do much during the regular school year because I already had so much other homework. So it was, you know, we kind of just doubled down over the summer, but yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But I mean, we
All right.
just do it over the course of the whole year, but over the course of the whole year, it would be like, okay, we're going to do a chapter of a book a week, but then over the summer, it's like, okay, we're going to do this a day. So...
All right, sidetrack over. Thank you. Tell us about. Let's do Elden Ring first. What happened with Elden Ring Night Rain?
All right, so yeah, Elden Ring, Night Rain released just recently. And it's doing okay. Not great, not terrible. It's currently sitting at a 77 for critics on Metacritic, but it's only sitting at a 6.2 for the audience on Metacritic. And on Steam, it's mostly positive, which I wasn't sure what mostly positive was. To me, that sounds great. But then I looked at it and it's like, yes, mostly positive is should be in the 70 to 79% range. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's right in line with Metacritic then. But yeah, so this is actually the lowest scoring From Software game in a very long time. So for some people, they're like, oh no, you know, this is bad news. And it's like, it's still a good score, guys. Come on. But it looks like actually most of those scores are in fact not due to the game being necessarily bad, but because of the multiplayer aspects of it. So for example, this game only has trios or solos. There are no duos. And a lot of people are like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why are there no duos? Now, From Software has come out and they said, you know what, we're looking into it. You guys seem to really want duos. So we're going to look into it and we're going to try to, you know, accommodate that in the game. The other thing is, part of the reason I guess they said they didn't really do duos is because they said the game was kind of tuned for either solo or trios, which again, people are saying like, yeah, it definitely seems like it's kind of maybe tuned towards trios. I guess some of the enemies, some of their attack patterns or things like that really do seem like you're supposed to have one person kind of holding its attention and then other people are supposed to kind of jump in and take advantage of that. When you have one person taking the attention and doing the damage, I guess some people have said that it seems a bit much. Because yeah, it does seem like you're supposed to have at least somewhat of a Holy Trinity meta, not with a healer, but you know, you're supposed to have somebody holding aggro. One of the complaints I saw somebody saying was an archer might shoot the enemy from a distance, and the enemy starts chasing the archer, and the archer is running away because they have to keep distance between themselves and the monster. But if the archer's running away and the monster's chasing him, the melee people have to keep up with the monster and fight it at the same time, and they can't really do that. And so that was causing trouble. Another big issue is the fact that there is no in-game chat. There's no way to really communicate with your fellow players. And as a result, you often have people running off in different directions, and what is supposed to be a trio game becomes a let's solo together game. So, you know, they're saying it really could use some sort of in-game communication. If you have friends, it's perfectly fine. You know, use Discord or whatever, and no issues. But if you are doing it with random people, that can become an issue because everyone has their own goals and there's no way to really communicate what your goal is. And so there's no consensus on what you should be doing. So I've heard that that's a bit of an issue. Oh, there's also no crossplay. So if you're on, you know, which is not great for servers long term, because you know crossplay means that you have a much bigger pool, which means that even when the pools shrink, you know, you can still combine them together. But that maybe that's not so much an issue right now. And what was the other one? There was one more that I can't quite remember. But anyway, but there are other things that people really like. Oh, the other things that people were concerned about were that there's only like 8 bosses right now. So they're like, okay, there's not a lot. And then they will add more later, but as of right now, There's not a lot. Also, the map is a little bit limited. And rounds can be a bit long. They said the round can be about 40 minutes long. You know, you're grinding through 40 minutes, and then you get to the boss, and then, you know, you lose to that last boss, and you basically get nothing. And people are like, oh man, it just, you know, like at least in like an Elden Ring or something like that, you're, you know, you make progress, you've learned something, you can improve, but you can come back at it. But in this one, because gear is randomized every time, so every time you get into the world, you have to get new gear, and you have to kind of gear up, and you're not necessarily guaranteed you're going to be getting the same stuff every single time. So if you don't get something you're good with the next time, or if bosses are randomized, so, you know, if you had a if you struggled with one boss, you can't just go in and practice on him. You know, you might not get him again for a really long time. So, you know, that's kind of not a problem, but an irritation for some people. And also because I guess this has the kind of mechanic similar to a battle royale, where you have like your shrinking ring. Some people say that can be a problem, because they say you don't know where the ring's going to end up at the beginning. So, you know, you might be over here, the ring could end up over here, which is actually good. But if it ends up where you started, if you clear out the area around you, then towards the end of the game, you have nothing to do because all the enemies are gone. And so you can't, you know, you hit a certain cap, and it's like, well, now I can't continue leveling because there's nothing around. It's all outside the ring now. So some people are saying they would like to have some sort of indication where the ring will end up, simply because that means that they could kind of plan a course on the map to say, like, okay, we should move this way to keep within the ring, rather than let's clear here and hopefully the ring's going to move. So, but there are lots of things that people like. They do like the classes. They say that they're a lot of fun. They work really, really well. So I see a lot of people do like that randomization, that each time you come in, you pick up different gear. So, you know, you try a certain weapon this time, and you're going to try another certain weapon next time. A lot of people do like that mechanic. They do think it's fun. And they like that the main characters have their own classes, or they have their own quests. So they have their kind of own goals that you're going to be doing. So if I'm playing as this character, there are certain things I want to do. If I'm playing as a different character, there are certain things I want to do with them. So people already like that. So overall, people are enjoying the game. They're just saying that in terms of From Software's previous games, you know, Armored Core, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, it's not quite up to par with those games, but it is still very good and worth your time. So yeah, I haven't played it yet, but if you have, you know, let us know in the comments. You know, are you enjoying it? Do you think, like, no, wait, why are people saying that? They're just being, you know, they need to get good. This game is fantastic. It's the best game ever. Or are you kind of in agreement where you're like, yeah, I mean, it's a good game, but it's not quite up to the experience I was hoping for. Let us know. And also, one last thing that I forgot to mention. If you are on PC, there is already a mod for duos. So if you want to play duos on PC, you can already do that. If you're on console, sorry, no luck. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, you literally, I thought there might be like space for me to talk about something, but you covered all the issues. Like ISO, when it first came out, I don't know why, like, as I've gotten older, or maybe recently as we started focusing a lot on games and being middle-aged gaming, right? I click on very famous games to see what are the reviews like, what are people saying about it on Steam. And I did see a lot of the issues you described, especially like when it first came out. I remember seeing, man, this sucks. I want to play with my friend. Or why is there no proximity chat? Something like that, right? We need to communicate. And the thing we show about people running up is like, I was playing the game and we started up, I loaded in with 2 randos and they just ran away. And I was like, I had to, you know, restart the game and try and find new people again. One guy had to do this like 4 or 5 times to find people who actually wanted to play with him. So that's crazy. Like, yeah, no, Elden Ring, don't like it, never will play it. Night Rain is the same. For me, it's an interesting thing because most games start off with duos, like Split Fiction, like all the games that studio make, 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢 Studios made a lot of other games, and like in the last 20 years of online co-op gaming, duos, and I've talked about this on the show before. I have 2 brothers. It's really hard to find games that just do 3 people and up, because there's so many online multiplayer 2-people games. So I think Night Rain is fantastic. I know my older brother will never play this because we tried to play a roguelike game before, and my brother just felt like this was wasting his time. Night, like, we'll never play Night Rain ever, and I'll never play it. But I'm so curious to try Elden Ring at some point when it's cheap enough, where I feel like if I play it for now and I hate it, I wouldn't have lost too much money.
Yeah, if my group of friends decide that they want to do it, we're currently playing Baldur's Gate, and we're currently planning a second run through of Baldur's Gate, and after that, I don't know what we're gonna do, but yeah, I'd definitely be willing to check it out with them. But I wouldn't want to play solo, simply because if I'm playing a solo game, I probably want something a little more story oriented. But
Okay, and speaking of not having a story, because my second story game is As We Descend, a strategic deck builder in a post-apocalyptic world. So, what happens when you blend the strategic depth of XCOM with the card mechanics of Slay the Spire? Well, this is what we have with As We Descend. Now, this is a game, I think I signed up for an emailing list, and I rarely do that with gaming studios, because sometimes if you support a game, you can get so many emails, and I already get way too many emails on a daily basis from work-related things, from gaming-related things, from banking and all this sort of stuff. Like, no, I don't need any more emails. But I signed up to, this studio has a cool name as well. It's called Box Dragon, and I love that name. So I signed up to their email, and they were supposed to release this in early access. So it is in early access 2 months ago, and they delayed release to fix some of the issues from a closed beta. So what is it, right? This is a roguelike deck building with turn-based strategy. So it's, as I talked about before, right? It's a blend of Beyond Against the Storm with a deck building game. So the game introduces a 2-zone battlefield, right? So, which is also cool as well. It's like the front line and the support line as well, and that is unique because it dictates where you place your units or your cards. There's also 380 cards, which I find with games which sort of blend a card system inside it, there is a lot of the time, like, there's too few cards, and maybe the game is 20 hours or 30 hours, and by the 10-hour mark, you have all the cards. Or it's, like, okay, these are all the cards, and you can sort of see, like, hey, these are all the cards that are in the game. These are probably the rest of the cards, and it's not surprising. It's kind of boring. So there's a lot of cards in this game system, right? Multiple unit types, procedurally generated runs. I'm not as big a fan about procedural generation as I used to be when it first came out. I don't know, when did procedural generation first come out? I think some people like it. For me, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't add much to the game for me anymore. So there's a lot of replay value, but I think the replay value in games like this, in roguelikes, for me is, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, right, is getting that little bit stronger and getting to the point where, like, I'm so strong, the game is over, I'm done, game finished, right? Like, Hades was a game like that, where eventually I got the right combinations of everything. I got the best skills. I finally mastered the weapon I was using, and I got to the end. I'm like, okay, wow, game done. I killed Kronos. I forgot who I killed in Hades 1, wherever that is, I forgot. So as I said, it is currently in early access. So if you are an early access gamer, and I know some of you older gamers are not, like I am not no longer anymore, keep that in mind. But it's just a game you, again, as we talked about at the beginning, you want to wish list, right? You want to purchase it and support the developer, give their publishers, Coffee Stain Studios. You would have seen them. These are the same guys who published Valheim. Right, so if you want to give Box Dragon some support and tell Coffee Stain Studios, hey, yes, this game is worth supporting because, look, they made a bunch of money already, go ahead and do that. So this game is set in a universe, right? It's sort of like the game The Silo, or not the game, the Apple series The Silo, right? Where humanity's in this sort of silo-like place, and the world has ended, and you are going down into this place to sort of discover, like, what is hidden beneath there, what didn't we know about the past, and you're discovering ruins and treasures and technology around this game, different cards and units, right? And as you come back, you're like, okay, cool, I've got this new thing, and for my next run, I get all these different things that I just discovered from my previous run, which is kind of cool as well. So there's the cards are awesome, the strategic level is awesome. If someone has played this already or has been following this for a long time, please let me know. Comment down below. I still have yet to buy this, despite saying that I will. So it is on my list of things to do. This week is the latest release of Marvel Snaps from Season, so that is where my money went to yesterday. So I should definitely buy this today or tomorrow at some point. But yeah, as we descend, I hope I have a chance to play it at some point. Looks really cool. The aesthetics is also really cool as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And let me know what you think.
I haven't played a deck builder in forever.
You're not much of a card game person, I think, despite being somewhat geeky.
No, I like playing card games. There's a kid I tutor, and he wants to play Pokemon all the time, so we play Pokemon quite a bit.
Do you have Pokemon cards?
No, but he does. I just borrow his and then beat him at it.
How old is the kid?
I don't know, 10, 11, 12.
Oh god.
But he plays very aggressively, and he has one deck where it's like a very defensive deck, and so my strategy is I'm going to play this deck, and I'm just going to survive until he runs out of cards, and once he runs out of cards, I automatically win.
And is that how you won multiple times?
That's how I've won multiple times.
Oh no, poor kid.
Playing to his weakness.
Very nice. Adam, tell us about your next story, which I thought is, which I think is really cool. Shadow of the Road.
Yeah, Shadow of the Road is looks really cool. So Shadow of the Road is not out yet, but there is an open alpha. So if you want to play it, you can definitely go and check it out right now. All you have to do is go to Steam and sign up. So this game is kind of a Baldur's Gate 3 meets Japan meets steampunk. So if that sounds appealing to you, then definitely check it out. It is very much like Baldur's Gate. If you look at it, you know, you have the top-down isometric kind of view, and you can take your characters, you move them around the map. They all have all their special abilities. But the turn base is a little bit different. So in Baldur's Gate, the turn base is you have a turn, and everybody gets to play during that turn, and your characters, I don't remember what it is, it's your dexterity or whatever your speed stat is. That will determine which order you go in that turn. But in this game, it's going to be a little bit more like maybe Final Fantasy or other side, in that is maybe a little bit more like Final Fantasy in the sense that, you know, a character might have a set speed. So when they do an action, it'll push them back down on the time bar, which is very similar to World of Final Fantasy if you've played that. But it's also going to be a lot like other side in the sense that controlling that time bar is going to be a huge part of the gameplay. So if you have a certain character, you can push them back on the time bar, or a certain character has ability that it makes all your other characters move up on the bar. I was watching one review, and the guy was saying how he had one. He was fighting this one guy who was really weak. The guy would only hit for like 2 HP at a time, but his 2 HP hit would push his own character back on the time. So this guy just kept pushing him back, pushing him back, pushing him back, pushing him back, and ended up killing him by doing that. So he was like, yeah, I wasn't quite prepared for it. But you know, also I'm sure once the game is out of alpha, I'm sure there's probably lots of bugs like that. But again, this is alpha. This isn't even beta yet. So yeah, but anyway, the way, so you got that, you got kind of the Baldur's Gate sense where you can walk around out in the real world in real time. When you're not in combat, each character is going to have their own sets of skills. So this is going to be a little bit different in that it doesn't seem to be class-based. It does seem to be character-based. And also what's interesting is that each character has, they unlock their abilities via a skill tree, and your skill tree is going to be based on the actions that you do in game. So the quests that you take, or the decisions that you make, you can push characters down different paths, and by pushing them down these different paths, that's going to unlock different parts of the skill tree. So if you're going to treat your character as a little more sneaky and a little more assassin-y, then they might unlock some assassin-like tree. If you're going more of a noble route, you might unlock more of a direct kind of fighting style or something like that. So the decisions that you make in the game are actually going to impact the way the characters even play. And then the characters' relationships with each other are also going to impact the way things occur, things happen. So, you know, similar to Baldur's Gate, where you have, you know, it'll say such and such like that decision, or such and such did not like that. You know, you're gonna have something like that, but it's actually going to, it's not just going to impact like what they say, or maybe even some story beats, but it looks like it might even impact combat as well. So that is very interesting. But yeah, so far, the early reviews do seem pretty good. And again, it is in early alpha, so I think most of them have been fairly forgiving of some of the flaws. A lot of the times I see People will say like, oh, you know, like I wasn't really too keen on this, or I wasn't really too keen on that, but such as they say like, okay, you know, the abilities that you can do are extremely limited. I would love to see more abilities and that sort of thing. But they don't seem to be things that they're like, I don't really like the direction that this game is going, or I don't like this core mechanic. It's more like, this doesn't seem like it's fully fleshed out entirely just yet. So, but yeah, it's called Shadow of the Road, and you can wishlist it on Steam right now, but you can also go ahead and sign up for the open alpha. So you can go ahead and play that. I haven't had time to play it, but I think I might check it out. We'll see. It's going to depend on time. I'm playing Doll's Nest right now, and I'm going to be playing Death Stranding soon enough, and then there's a Stellar Blade DLC in between. So, but maybe eventually, we'll see.
This looks really cool. Like, as you're talking about it, I'm looking at the Steam page, and you see that like robotic scorpion-like thing walking around. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty nifty for that time. Like the mix of somewhat real history and like steampunk stuff. Like it's nice, and it doesn't look good. I don't know really. Like, this also looks like a small GIF on the Steam page. Those never really paint a game well, but it looks good enough. So this is definitely something also for me to keep on my mind as well. I was gonna say I still want to play Baldur's Gate 3, but I know I never will, just because there's way too many new games coming out all the time, and we are under the gun as always. So yeah, I wish nothing but success for them.
Yeah.
Okay, and moving on to my last story for today. My last story for today is, I don't know, I'm enjoying these sort of discussions with Adam lately, so it's going to be another discussion. So we're going to talk about the rise of the anti-fan when critique turns to sabotage. In today's gaming landscape, a new phenomenon... Let's start that again. In today's gaming landscape, a new phenomenon is emerging: the anti-fan, individuals who actively root for a game's failure even before its release. So, what is an anti-fan, right? So unlike traditional critics, anti-fans engage in preemptive negativity, often spreading skepticism and doubt about upcoming games without first-hand experience. This trend can demoralize development teams, right? Skew public perception and potentially harm a game's success before it even hits the market. So we've sort of hinted about this and talked about this in person as well, where we've seen game studios, like, I mean, it's normal, right? Like, I mean, this sort of happens where, I mean, even as small-time creators like us, like sometimes you might see a negative comment and you might like, that kind of sucks. Like, what? I didn't do anything to you. Why are you saying this stuff to me, right? And if you can imagine that on a massive scale, or like a really big IP like Dragon Age, like, I kind of think of what other games, right? But like, there are loads of IPs like that where you're making the third or fourth game, or even if you're making a pre-sequel or a prequel to a game, and you're like, oh my god, there's all this fandom, all this love for a particular game, and then it turns immediately like on an edge, right? Like the thin line between love and war, right? It turns to war because, oh my god, you're destroying my love for something, right? The Little Mermaid, right? Where we have the Black Ariel, right? I'm a big fan, like, yes, we should have more characters of colors and everything, more representation. And of course, there were lots of people who argued about it. And and lots of people, like the new Lilo and Stitch, which came out, and people like, this is how you do a live action remake, right? So, this is the rise of an anti-fan, right? So this story is based on the former BioWare writer David Gator, who highlighted this issue in an interview with PC Gamer, noticing how some individuals seem eager for the game to fail, reflecting on a broader pattern in the industry. I wouldn't even say broader pattern in media. And of course, social media, Twitter, Reddit, there are so many platforms that sort of say like, hey, like, do you hate on this game? Well, come and join us. Let's all hate on it together. And the last thing is navigating the landscape, right? So developers and fans, right? I think we need to try and be as open-minded as possible. And I'm not perfect. Like, there are definitely times where, like, man, I say I hate this particular game or this particular genre or this particular developer, despite never having played the game or having experienced it. And I think constructive dialogue is better. But at the same time, like, I think, I don't know if we can come back from where we're going at the moment because there's just so much negativity around certain things, and so people are so defensive about changes in their culture, changes about things that they love, where, and again, I won't go into as long a spiel as I've gone on before, but like having grown up without any representation in TV or gaming or anything, and even still, I feel like I want a brown person to be a lead of a game. I still find it very hard to do that, right? Like it's still hard to sort of say, hey, yeah, here's this person, he's the lead of this game. I played Near Mage, right? And of course, it's based in Transylvania or based in Romania, right? And the character was white, of course, because that's where they are. But it would have been nice to have a non-Romanian person be the person in the story. Like, sure, why not? But yeah, so Adam, what do you think about the rise of the anti-fan? Your experiences with it? Good, bad, terrible? Can we fix it? What do you think?
I mean, it's always been a thing. I mean, that we just used to call them hipsters, but you know, they definitely have a easier platform to shout from with the internet. I don't think it's a new thing. There was I don't know if it was the same guy or a different guy. I think it was somebody at BioWare. It might not have been, but somebody had a really good quote where they were saying that a lot of times people will look at these games and they will say that they'll blame a game, and they were specifically talking about people complaining about games being woke, but they were saying like somebody will say like this game is woke and it's going to fail, and when the game fails, they're like, oh, see, they'll point to it and they'll say, see, it failed because it was woke. But then the truth is that if it was a good game, people would have played it. It didn't fail because it was woke. It failed because it was a bad game. And I think that they were specifically talking about 𝙂𝙪 when they said that. They were saying like, you know, it's not that the game failed because it was woke. It failed because it just failed on so many other levels, like your previous choices from previous Dragon Ages not mattering, or people who are traditional Dragon Age fans wanting party control and not having that, or losing that access to tactical control and that sort of thing. And I mean, it's a good point. Like if you look at games like was it Hogwarts Legacy? Is that the name? You know, people were, before that game came out, people were saying like, oh, this game is terrible, you shouldn't play it, this game is awful. And then when it came out, it turned out to be good, and suddenly everyone was quiet and everyone was playing it. Stellar Blade had a similar thing when it first came out, and people were like, oh, this game is terrible. You know, it's you had people on both sides saying like, oh, you know, this game is sexist, and the other people saying like, oh, this game is woke because there's too much covering. And then the game came out, and now everyone's like, oh yeah, this game is fantastic, to the point where it's coming out on PC and it's this huge deal and everyone's super excited about it. So I mean, there's definitely a truth to there being anti-fans out there. But I do feel that I do feel like a lot of times developers who point to the anti-fan are kind of trying to gloss over their own failures to create a game that resonated with audiences. I do feel like there is a little bit of like, oh, hey, my game failed not because I didn't make a great game, but because the haters out there, the haters are the ones that did it. And I do feel that that is pushing a little bit of responsibility on the audience, when I think it's usually more simply a case of you just made a game that just didn't resonate. I mean, like look at BioWare specifically. What were the last few games they made? Okay, they made I'm trying to remember, Mass Effect Andromeda, which I personally really like, but did not perform well. A lot of people did not like Mass Effect Andromeda, and even I'll admit that while I did enjoy the game, it was basically just a rehash of the previous Mass Effects. I mean, you know, you have somebody coming in, there's an ancient civilization that has the tools that we need to fix it. There's aliens, or there's an enemy force that is taking our allies and converting them into their own army. You know, it wasn't all that creative, I'll grant you that, but I did enjoy the game. But then after that, what was their next game? Anthem. Anthem did not do well at all. It did, and then the next game that they did was the Mass Effect Legendary Edition or whatever, you know, which was just a remaster of the old Mass Effects. So yeah, that did well, but they didn't actually have to do too much in terms of gameplay or story or anything like that. And then 𝙂𝙪. So I mean, when you look at BioWare's recent track record since I think around 2017, I think was when Andromeda came out, it hasn't been that great. So I mean, when 𝙂𝙪 didn't succeed, you know, maybe they need to look a little inward. Don't just straight up accuse the fans and say like, well, this is all your fault, you know, because yeah, I think there were definitely people that wanted to see him fail, but there were a lot of people that wanted to see them succeed too. So, you know, If it had been a great game, I think the haters would have shut up and the fans would have taken over. But that didn't happen, and I don't think it's entirely because of the anti-fans. So, just my opinion.
I disagree. I mean, you made some good points. Like, I think it was more the anti-fans played a significant role. Is it like 100%? No, for sure not. Like, yes, but I think it. Velgard was a symbol or a metaphor of the current state of society, right? Where we have a lot of very modern people and people with modern thinking and people who want different things and new things and let's go forward. And there are lots of people who are stuck in the past when it comes to culture and even gaming as well. We're like, hey, this is the kind of game I want. I played this game for 10 years or 15 years, or this is what the franchise used to be like. And therefore, I wanted to stay the same. I wanted to be adjacent or similar. And there's no room, right? There's always this gatekeeping of like, hey, I played this in 2010 and I want this game to be similar, right? And if it's not like that, I think you betrayed me or something like that, where it's like, okay, fine. There are 20-year-olds who want to play this kind of game. Let's go with it, right? Like, I know things change, literature changes, media changes, movies change. Why should gaming not change as well? And at the same time, right, like you will have pushback on that, and we've seen that in society. So, to me, I think the role of anti-fans is more significant than you suggested. Again, just in my opinion, right? I could be wrong, but I feel it's a much bigger role, and I think the negativity of a particular space can impact a game, like we had with the story of the 𝙂𝙖𝙢𝙢𝙧𝙩 developer, right? Where he said like, yeah, this is impacting us, and I think it is, and it did. And I think not even just for that studio, for loads of other games, the dancing card game that I was playing at some point, where people accused the lady, where I think she was taking money on Patreon, and she's like, hey, you promised us X amount of things on Patreon, but you're not delivering it anymore. This is a betrayal. And again, they were like a 2-person studio with her and her husband making this game. So it's I think negativity is I mean, no matter what, it's not great, right? As to the level of its impact, I think we'll never know until more people dig into this more. But we'll see. All right, Adam, last Reddit question for today. Tell us, what are little touches in games that give you an inexplicable amount of joy?
I love to see an environment that interacts with the character. And I don't just mean like, even just walking, like if I'm walking through Skyrim or something, or you see somebody and they're like walking across the table and they're just like chairs are shifting out of the way, or like cups are falling as they like sweep their arms and stuff like that. I love that. But also just going outside and seeing, like, if you're walking in tall grass and watching the tall grass kind of part, and kind of like, go back and forth so you can kind of see the trail of where you were walking. If there are like small little animals like squirrels or rabbits, and they interact with you in the sense that, like, if you get too close, they'll like run up a tree, or if you like hit a tree or something, birds fly out. I always love seeing stuff like that. And also recently, haptic feedback. When you are running in a certain game, some games do this, a lot don't, but some games do this. When you are running in a game, depending on the surface that you are running on, the haptic feedback changes, and that gives me so much joy. Final Fantasy 14 actually does that, where I notice, like, if I'm running on certain things, like if I'm running on stone, you can kind of feel this little tuk, 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 tuk. You can feel the footsteps on either side of the controller. That to me is super fun.
Very cool. Not what I expected you to say, but interesting nonetheless.
What'd you expect?
I was expecting like cool story moments in the game. Like you might like something that impacts you. That was my expectation.
Oh, I mean, that's a big thing. I thought this was a small thing. Like the small little details.
Well, I mean, yeah. Again, that comes from my book, because for me, story is a small thing in a game.
For me, story is huge. I mean, I love a story where things come back to bite you. Where you're just like The Witcher or Cyberpunk. I mean, both of those are CD Projekt Red games, but games like that where you make a decision, or Baldur's Gate, where you make a decision and that's going to come back and bite you. Sometimes it's good, you know. Sometimes it's a little nip. It makes no big difference. Sometimes it becomes a huge, you know, like an ally shows up in the original. Was it Dragon Age Origins? You know, depending on who you ally with, you could have, you know, werewolves show up in the final combat, which was amazing. So, you know, stuff like that is always amazingly cool, and I love that. But for me, that's a huge mechanic. That's why I play games, is for that story, you know.
Sure. As someone who just played an adventure game, and I realized like the someone was like, yeah, I beat the game in 12 hours, and that's how long it should take you, and I finished it in 7. I'm like, oh yeah, because I skipped way too much of story.
Yeah. What was it? Expedition 33. See, Claire Obscura Expedition 33. They said it's 30 hours to beat, 60 hours to 100%. I am over 90 hours now, and I don't have a platinum. So I've been goofing off a lot. I've gotten everything I want out of it, but huh?
I know this about you, like because I know you like to do a lot of the side stuff and play around and just follow your heart's desire, which is cool.
Yeah, I do not have a direct path. I'm like, let's go here. Now let's go back. Why didn't I do that before?
All right, and towards the end of the show, as I have suggested, I guess, in previous episodes, right? So Ed and I have decided on a niche for the channel. Again, not a permanent niche, but just a niche so that we can take the channel to the next level, go beyond a few hundred videos for long form videos, and maybe get a few thousand, maybe, and just get our videos recommended more. Because as a lot of people have always said, YouTube educators, just that like, yeah, you need a niche. And middle-aged gaming has been very broad in terms of hardware, which I love a lot. But again, it doesn't do us any good, right? Because at some point, I want to make this a real thing. I want to stop working for the man, and with the progressive AI and stuff, I need to really stop working for the man much faster. So going forward, what you're going to see is just anything related to RPGs, and in a very broad sense. Which is still going to give us a little bit of leeway in terms of the games and the news that we cover. So keep that in mind. Second thing is with Stellar Blade coming out next week, and Adam's Stellar Blade video being the most successful video we've had on the channel. Next week is going to be a week of, while we will still do the live show, those videos are not going to be scattered out during the week. You're not going to see any shorts of those. Next week is only going to be Stellar Blade shorts, and potentially a second week after that, depending how well things are received next week. So please keep that in mind. The live show is still going to be here. If you still want to tune in for that, if you still want to listen to some of the stories, you know, you can still, on your YouTube Premium account, check out the live stream. Turn off your phone, leave it playing in the background. So please do check that out. And then we should be back, you know, in the most optimistic way in 2 weeks, with the videos coming back out. Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, potentially next week, right? If you just want to do 1 week of Stellar Blade coverage. So thanks as always for tuning in. Adam, do you want to add anything about live streaming or anything like that?
No, should be following my regular schedule for at least until summer comes. So,
when does summer start for you?
I don't know. July maybe.
I believe it's because I think my students said the same thing, that the last day of school is June 20 something. Like it's the end of basically June is the last day of school, and their summer starts in July.
We'll see what comes. Yeah. So July. Yeah, I think I'm going to do summer classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which is my normal streaming schedule. So. So sad for 8 weeks. Every time.
Oh my god, then I might have to step into the streaming arena again if I can get my streaming set up.
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
That's why that's part of the reason my Chinese is so bad. Because every time it would be like, hey, let's join these Chinese classes. And then summer would hit or winter would hit. And it's like, sorry, guys, I need to drop out for 8 weeks. And then when I come back, it's like the class is way progressed. It's like, all right, you need to join a new class. Okay, so I need to go back to the beginning and start a new class. Okay, let's get ahead. Oh, sorry, guys, I need to drop out for 4 weeks. And and then it's kind of gets set back, and now I'm kind of struggling, and then and then summer comes and it's like, oh, sorry, I'm going to drop out for 8 weeks again. Okay, well, I was already behind, so I'm just going to go back again. So
I mean, that's the same with me. When I was doing Chinese full time, I think I was still working at coaching part time. I think I did 20 hours. I think, yeah, because it was 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, so 15 hours a week for 2 semesters. And the second semester, I think my hours in coaching increased, and then I could just not keep up because we were getting homework every day, and every one of my classmates was a student. They were not working part time, and he's like, my she'd be like, oh, 你功课写了没? I'm like, nope, sorry. I was checking homework last night and I just didn't have time. And then, yeah, same thing as that, give up.
yeah, most of mine were other teachers, but they were not working in the mornings. They were usually, they were just afternoon teachers, because of course they couldn't have been kindergarten teachers because they would have been working when we had class.
Yes. On that side note, as always, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the videos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And then we will see you next week, Tuesday, for a pure live stream. Bye.
All right. Bye.